Failed science experiments. You have all heard about the mad scientist who took their work a little bit too seriously, only for something he created to destroy him and sometimes many other people around him. In history, you could say many scientists have gone too far about their work, while other times things didn't go the way they wanted to. Here, we will learn about some failed science experiments that have gone too far. If you're curious about science and its experiments, stay with us until the end. Hey everyone, welcome to TechVerse. Here we are with our new video in which we are going to talk about failed science experiments. But before we proceed to the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to never miss any video. And let's dive in. Firstly, we will talk about the most famous experiment in history, the Michelson-Morley experiment. The idea behind the Michelson-Morley experiment can be simplified to the analogy of a person swimming in a river with a current. Depending on whether or not the person is swimming with or against the current, his or her relative velocity or speed of level will change. For Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, the river is a material called ether, and the person swimming is light. From ideas presented by physicist James Clerk Maxwell years earlier, Michelson and Morley knew that light was a wave. From daily experiences, they had some preconceived notions about waves. For example, we can observe that to hear the sound waves must move or propagate through something, for example, air or water. Without a material to move through, there is no sound to be heard. If this is true for sound, thought Michelson and Morley, then surely it is for light as well. Ether was the name given to the hypothetical medium that surrounded all things that light propagated through. Their experiment set out to measure different speeds of light depending on whether or not the light was swimming with or against the ether's current. The results were unexpected. Michelson and Morley saw that no matter which way the light swam, it maintained a constant velocity of c. If we look back to our river analogy, that would mean that no matter how fast the current flowed against the swimmer, he or she would continue at the same constant pace no matter what. But how? This goes against classic physics and our very intuitions about motions. What the result of this experiment meant for physics was that there was no absolute point of view to measure events, that everything was relative. Next, we have the Winthrop-Kelloggs Ape Experiment. In the early 1930s, comparative psychologist Winthrop Kellogg and his wife welcomed a healthy baby boy they named Donald. The psychologist has grown interested in those stories of children who are raised feral, but he didn't send Donald to be raised by wolves. He did the opposite. He managed to get his hands on a similar age baby chimpanzee named Gua and raised her alongside Donald. Gua initially did better than Donald in tests that included things like memory, scribbling, strength, dexterity, reflexes, problem solving, climbing, language comprehension, and more. But she eventually plateaued, and it became evident that no amount of equal treatment was going to make her behave more like a human. She was never going to speak English. But when Kellogg ended the experiment, they did so abruptly and without much explanation, which is contrary to the meticulous records they otherwise took throughout the course of the study. While Gua wasn't showing any signs of picking up English, Donald had started to imitate the vocalization of his sister from another species, so it's not hard to speculate why the Kelloggs called it quits. Next, we have the Stanford Prison Experiment. You may have heard about the Stanford Prison Experiment, a social psychology study gone awry in 1971. The point of the experiment, which was funded by the U.S. Office of Naval Research, was to measure the effect of role-playing and social expectations. Lead researcher Philip Zimbardo had predicted that situations and circumstances dictate how a person acts, not their personalities. To start, 24 young men were assigned the roles of prison guards or prison inmates, with some held back as alternates. Each was paid $15 per day for his participation in the study, which was supposed to last 2 weeks. The prisoners were arrested, taken to a game prison in the basement of a school building, and then made to wear a dress-like school uniform with chains around the right ankle. By the second day, the faux prisoners were revolting. Over the next few days, some of the prisoners were traumatized that they were pulled out. The experiment was disbanded on day 6 after an outside observer witnessed the upsetting events taking place and sounded the alarm. Many modern-day researchers don't believe the experiment can be replicated because it doesn't meet today's research ethics standard, namely informed consent. After all, it's hard to give fully informed consent when there's no way to predict how events could unfold. Beyond that, some psychologists about the core findings of the experiment claim that the cruelty didn't emerge organically, but was instead influenced by Zimbardo, nudging the experiment in that direction. Zimbardo, however, has defended his results and stated that his criticism is misrepresenting his study and the experience of the people in it. Next, we will know about Franzreichels' Aviator suit. If there's anything to be said for Franzreichels, it's that he had supreme confidence in his own invention. In the early 1900s, Reichelt crafted a parachute from his 320 square feet of fabric, all of which folded upon into a wearable aviator suit. He had conducted several parachute tests using dummies, which all failed. He pinned the blame on his building, saying they simply weren't tall enough. In the 1912, Reichelt planned to test his latest version by flinging a dummy from the Eiffel Tower. But when he arrived at the famous landmark, the inventor surprised the waiting crowd by strapping on the parachute suit himself and taking the leap. The parachute didn't open, however, and Reichelt became a victim of his invention. Next, let's talk about the Cleveland Indians' 10-cent beer night. In 1974, the Cleveland Indians tinkered with a new promotion to increase game attendance, allowing fans to purchase an unlimited amount of beer for 10 cents a cup, which wasn't the best idea. The game against the Texas Rangers was an eventful one. Memorable events of the evening included a woman running onto the Indians' on-deck circle and flashing the umpire, a naked fan running onto the field and sliding into second base, and a father and son who ran into the outfield and mooned the bleacher section. Things took a violent turn when fans launched fireworks into the Rangers' dugout, and the whole thing eventually turned into an all-out riot, with fans against players on both teams. Players were hit with folding chairs, and there were numerous fistfights, and some players were injured when they were pelted with rocks. After that, the Cleveland Indians kept 10-cent beer nights, but limited the promotion to 2 drinks per person. Next, we have the Stubbins Firths Yellow Fever Experiment. Stubbins Firth was a medical student who believed that yellow fever wasn't contagious. To prove it, he tried some awful experiments on himself at the turn of the 19th century. Firth cooked vomit from yellow fever patients on his stove and breathed in the vapors. He dropped the vomit into his eye, into an incision he had made into his left arm, and put drops of patient blood serum into his left leg. Eventually, he was basically drinking shots of black vomit, straight. He described the taste as very slightly acid. How did Firth manage to ingest all of this without falling ill? Well, we now know that yellow fever is spread by mosquitoes. So maybe Firth was vindicated. Is this just a disgusting experiment gone right? Well, not exactly. We also know that yellow fever can be spread from human to human through direct bloodstream contact, and Firth was deliberately introducing samples to his bloodstream. So how do you avoid contracting the virus? It's been proposed that he may have had immunity from an unrecorded bout of yellow fever earlier in life. Or maybe he just got extremely lucky and the samples he used were virus-free. Either way, if you're chugging vomit and cutting open your arm to introduce a potentially lethal virus, it's fair to say something's gone wrong. Hey, we sincerely hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please click on the like button and make sure you share it with your friends and family. And if you have any further questions or comments for us, please share them with us in the comment space down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll see even more of our incredible videos. You can also check out our other videos that have been specially selected just for you. Hey, we'll catch up with you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching!